In recent years, Malaysia has observed a notable increase in its national debt as a percentage of GDP. The projected escalation from 2023 to 2028 is concerning, potentially reaching 69.97% in 2028. Moreover, there was a substantial rise in debt from 67.72% to 69.31% of GDP in 2020. The mounting burden of the national debt has given rise to significant concerns about its potential implications for the nation's economy. And to discuss further on this, ready on the line is Associate Professor Dr. Bolaji Tunde Matemilola, Professor Madya, Sekolah Perniagaan dan Ekonomi UPM. Doctor, maybe you can share what measures is Malaysia taking to manage its public debt levels and ensure long-term sustainability? Doctor.
All right, thank you very much. Malaysia has been undergoing some reform in the fiscal sector. So one of the strategy or measures being used is the increase in the tax base. So this policy is a good policy because it increased the revenues of the government and also helped the government to be able to repay its maturing debt obligations. Another interesting measure used by the government, Ministry of Finance specifically, is the gradual debt consolidation. Now, this strategy ensures that the public debt level is lesser than its value during the pandemic period. So basically, this policy ensures that there is a declining in the public debt to GDP ratio back to the target set by the Ministry of Finance to about 65%. Another interesting measures used by the Ministry of Finance is managing or focusing more on key developmental projects that generate income for the nation and the people. Yes, infrastructure are important, but there's a financial constraint. So there is need for the government to prioritize which of the infrastructure will bring the most revenue for the government. Another interesting policy measures used by the Ministry of Finance in particular is also trying to manage the debt service costs. In trying to achieve this, they have been able to set the debt service cost to about 15%, which is also below the 22.5% set by the International Monetary Authority. So all these measures are aimed at ensuring that public debt reverse back to its initial below 65% as set by the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Bolaji, maybe your thoughts. How does Malaysia's current level of public debt compare to its historical levels, and what factors have contributed to any significant changes?
All right, thank you very much for the question. So I noticed that based on 2023 report by the IMF, the public debt to GDP ratio is about 64.5%, although it is below the target of 65% set by the Ministry of Finance. It is also slightly lower than the value of the public debt to GDP ratio in 2022. But interestingly, during the COVID-19 of 2020 and 2021, public debt to GDP ratio increased significantly to above 60%. The reason is simply because during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was pressure on government to spend more to reduce the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. I also noticed from the figures that from 2019, pre-pandemic, the public debt to GDP ratio was actually about 55%. So my further inquiry reveals that the debt to GDP ratio limit was initially set at 55% by the Ministry of Finance. However, in trying to accommodate the spending during the pandemic period, the limit was reviewed upward to about 65%. But in my opinion, I think moving forward, there is need to set the debt to GDP ratio back to about 60%, because 60% is the international threshold for the public debt sustainability level. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Doctor, what are the potential risks and challenges associated with Malaysia's public debt sustainability in the medium to long term? Your thoughts on this?
All right, thank you very much. There are quite a lot of risks that the Malaysian economy is exposed to. Let's look at the components of the public debt sustainability itself. So one of these factors that determine public debt sustainability is the income component itself. So the income component has to be increased in order to be able to increase government's ability to finance its borrowing. Unfortunately, the outlook is not so good unless something drastic is done. The revenue to debt ratio is declining. That's the reason why the tax base has to be increased to reduce the impact of this. Another potential risk is the risk coming from external shock. External shock, especially the Ukraine-Russia war, as well as shock arising from the US and China trade war. So this can put inflationary risk. And this inflation can be imported to Malaysia because China is a major trading partner of Malaysia. Another potential risk that can also pose a challenge to public debt sustainability is the risk coming from exchange rate fluctuation. Yeah. Now, exchange rate fluctuation can put pressure on debt components that are denominated in foreign currency. But the good thing about Malaysia is that substantial amounts of Malaysian public debt, they are denominated in ringgit, in national currency. So which means that the impact of the inflation of the exchange rate depreciation might be negligible. But it is still a potential risk factor to watch out for. Another possible risk that can affect the public debt sustainability of Malaysia is the growth trajectory. The growth potential of Malaysia, even though it is estimated to be about 4.3% in 2024, this growth trajectory is unlikely to be met unless something drastic is done, especially declining coming from the export, the major trading partners. There's also the possibility of upward movement in the interest rate. When the federal Fed policy rate increased in the United States, in order to curb inflationary pressure, this can have an impact on the policy rate of Malaysia. And this will also push pressure on interest rate and its impact on servicing cost of the debt. Thank you very much.
Doctor, we have less than 2 minutes. Maybe how effective are the fiscal policies and strategies implemented by the Malaysian government in addressing public debt concerns?
All right, thank you very much. I think I will just highlight maybe 2 or 3 because of the limited time. Let's look at the tax component. The tax is a very sensitive issue. The government is trying to increase the tax base. Of course, it is good because it generates revenue for the government. However, increasing tax can put pressure, especially on the middle income category. So that is why it is very important for the government to really think through the potential impact of this tax. Yes, it is good to increase the tax base, but they should also estimate the likely impact that this tax increase can have, especially on the middle income and the low income category. Another policy measures are used by Ministry of Finance specifically is fiscal consolidation. I think this is a very good policy. Why? Because it ensures that the new loan taken by the government does not exceed the loan taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. So this ensures gradual convergence back to the 65% target set by the Ministry of Finance. But moving forward, I look forward to the possibility of reviewing the public debt to GDP ratio target to about 60%, which is the international benchmark. Also on this, the Debt Management Office should also try to ensure that the debt limit, public debt limit of about 40%, if I'm not mistaken, is adhered to, because it ensures that they are also achieving the target of not exceeding 65%. So once the public debt exceeds 40%, it gives a danger sign that we need to do something in the medium term to reverse the trend. So one more aspect that I would like to comment on is on the aspect of subsidy. Subsidy it drains the government resources, but subsidy is also important, especially subsidizing petroleum and food consumption. But moving forward, I will suggest that the government should think carefully and eliminate unnecessary subsidy. What is unnecessary? I believe the Ministry of Finance know exactly what to do. They need to look into them and try to remove those unnecessary subsidies in order to have more buffers to withstand shock. Especially, we are likely to face a recession in the near future. Thank you very much.